Shalom. Kol Halo Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai Bahashem Raha Hakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. My name is Barad Debal, coming to you from the GMS camp of Indianapolis. And to all those listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom, especially to you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Today, title of this lesson is His Hatred is Perpetual. As you can see in the screen here, it says Carmelo on George Carl not liking stars. And so, of course, I'm going to play this clip. But before I do that, fair use. This is just for educational purposes only. A few things came to mind, and actually these scriptures, these last two scriptures came to mind when I read the title. It says Carmelo on George Carl not liking stars. And so we're going to get into it. But before I do so, I got a couple scriptures. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 26, verse 4. He says, and actually this was Abraham who the Lord was speaking to. He says, sojourn, verse 3, he says, sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto thy father. Abraham, thy father. Okay. And Salakia, I said he was talking to Abraham. Let me get the full context here. This was a famine, and he was talking to Isaac. So Salakia. And so then he says here in verse 4, he says, and I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give thy seed all, and this is singular, right? Because you got Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob, whose name became Israel later on. Okay, and from Isaac you had Jacob and Esau, and of course between those two, Jacob received the blessing. All right, of course, to be rulers eventually over the whole entire earth, and as a result, I got the scriptures. Because of that blessing, Esau has an hatred, perpetual hatred. So that's based on the title. And he says, in thy seed shall be the nation, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Okay, let's see one more. Okay, he says, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And so, of course, those commandments later went from Moses to the children of Israel. Okay, so this is the book of Exodus, chapter 32, verse 3. He says, remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Okay, Jacob, whose name became Israel. All right, because he had prevailed, with the angel. It says, when you read the story, he says, thy servants, to whom thou swearest by thy own self, and sayest unto them, I will multiply your seed. Okay, because Jacob, then through him, he had the 12 patriarchs. Okay, which we say today, you see the 12 tribes chart, which makes up the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Okay, that we have today. And so he says, swear unto thy own self, and sayest unto them, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. Okay, so again, that was just a thought that came to mind, because it's like Joel Carl, and this side, this is like just from the look. All right, just pure look. You have Jacob, you have Esau and Jacob, you know, and of course, Esau has this perpetual hatred. We're gonna get into it, but let's let the scripture speak. This is the book of let's see. Do I want to go here? Yep, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 27, verses 41 and 42. It says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, in his mind, right? So it became embedded in his spirit. All right. That heart is La'ab, which deals with the mind. It says, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, because another part of it said the elder, which was Esau, shall serve the younger, right? That was part of the blessing too. It says, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doeth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. All right. And so, of course, now, you know, just fast forwarding, there's a lot of, if you've followed the men of GMS, started with our head apostles, bishops and elders of Great Millstone, you'll know that there's a lot of history, but then we come to this point of Job 9:24, where the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. And then you go into the book of you go into the books, believe Malachi or sometime Micah. I get them mixed up. We'll actually go to it real quick. Let's go to it really quick. You find that I sometimes get them mixed up, but here we go. Let's go Micah. Nope. It's Malachi. All right, Malachi chapter 1. Verse 1, it says, the burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. It says, I have loved you, saith the Lord. You've loved Israel. Yet ye say, where hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord. Yet I loved Jacob. Why? He gave the blessing unto Jacob. It was predestined that Jacob was going to be received the blessing. It was told to the mother. You know, when you go back to the story, it says, two nations in thy womb, the elder shall serve the younger, you know, two manner of people, right? He says, and I hated Jacob, and I hated, Salakia. He says, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the earth. Okay. I want to jump down to verse 5. He says, verse 4, where Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus said the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. Now you see how Esau is going to build, but eventually he's going to be thrown down. But you also, when we read in the book of Genesis, where it spoke about Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob, whose name became Israel, how he said, I'm going to multiply thy seed, you know, as the stars of the sea. And you have other scriptures where it talks about, you know, dealing with Edom, Esau, you know, like when you read in Isaiah 14:1, where he says, prepare slaughter for his children. When you read, I believe it's Psalms 137, where it talks about daughter of Edom, how thou be destroyed, serve him as he have served us. Blessed is he that taketh and dashes thy little ones against the stone, because these are things in which they've done unto our people. And again, when you look at the book of Obadiah, where it talks about how Esau will be as stubble. And so eventually, the Lord is going to throw this institution down, and a lot of it is because of the perpetual hatred that Esau has done and shed the blood of of the children of Israel. But it says, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against the Lord, whom the Lord have indignation forever. Right? So even David mentioned, he says, don't I hate them that hate thee? I hate them. Let me see if I can get that real quick. This is the book of Psalms 139, verse 21. It says, do not I hate them, O Lord, that hate thee? And he says, and am not I grieved with those that rise up against thee? I hate them with a perfect hatred. I count them my enemy, because Esau has had this perpetual hatred, and he's shed the blood of the children of Israel. And systematically, which we're going to get, a systematic situation in this George Carl in Carmelo Anthony. This is the book of Amos chapter 1, verse 11. It says, thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword. All right, which is in modern day any type of killing instrument. All right, and did cast off all pity. So he had no pity on our people, the young, the old. It didn't matter. Okay, it says, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his anger forever. So let's look up this perpetual. All right. This is perpetual. It says never ending or changing, occurring repeatedly, so frequently as to seem endless and uninterrupted. And so for as long as they are in rulership, and this is for, again, the elect will understand, as long as they're in rulership, they will always have this never ending hatred and toward the children of Israel. And they're going to always show through their actions, whether it be systematically, physically, in some form, they'll show who they really are when it comes down to the children of Israel. And so lots of reasons why we're in the conditioned state. First and foremost, we transgress the laws, commandments of the Heavenly Father. But then it tells us in the scriptures that, the Lord had placed us in the hand of our enemies. And of course, the most lawless one, in today's time, not Israel, Slovakia, over Israel would be Edom, who the world know as the white man, so-called. And so they have this perpetual hatred, endless hatred. Yahweh Shai said that, if it continue, if they continue, no flesh shall be saved, because again, a lot of things in which they promote is against the Heavenly Father, like same sex marriages, the GMO foods, spraying things within the air, many of their pseudosciences, which speaks, against his people, as far as like the so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American man, not being smart, or their logic as far as why we are those conditions as being perpetual criminals, in which we're finding now, that a lot of things in which they've done is project. They project it through their hatred. The things that they are, they placed on the so-called black man, which is the head tribe of Judah, But anyway, so this is why we see the attacks when things happen, like with ICE and different things like that, we see these attacks that go, and they tend to target a certain demographic of people, which when you look and have eyes to see, you see that it's the Israelites. Okay, because you have many other immigrants and things that have came in floods into this country to receive a better life, so called. But you see the ones who are really being affected. So let's get this video, and then I have a few more scriptures, and then we'll be done. So here's a systematic example, and a lot is being said in this. So I may pause for a brief moment and continue on. Here we go.
Kmart have to feel the way that he feels about you today. JR feels the way about you that he feels today. Marcus Camby feels the way that all of these guys that we played, on the same team, they feel this way about you. Gary Payton feel this way. Sean Kemp feel this way. Ray Allen feels this way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, as you see, this is the common denominator, right? And this is what happens, we're starting to see in the world, right? When you starting to see the things that are happening in the world, it's all coming back to, the common denominator, the main person, in this case, you got the head tribe or head leaders, which is the Amalekites, all right, which the small hats. Okay, here we go.
The only person out of all of those people that you ever loved or liked was Anthony Mason, God bless the dead.
Yeah.
You ain't fuck with Sam Cassell. You say you ain't like his game. He shot too much. He cared about shooting the ball. This is shit that was coming to me. Big dog Glenn Robinson, I hated coaching him. This is shit that he would say.
So he hated buckets.
Listen, look.
He wanted this?
Look, it came down to a point where I was so hot at one point in time. And I'm trying to talk to like niggas he coached, and Sean Kemp and GP and, just guys that he coached. Somebody came up to me one day and said, man, yo, how you and George? I said, man, this motherfucker getting on my nerves. He said, yeah, man. He never liked stars. And I said,
He never liked stars. All right. So that just kind of hit, home, of course, keep it going.
Shit, right? And it put me back into a conversation that I had with George when he was like, yeah, I played with the Spurs back in the day and on that ABA team, and I was a role player to George Gervin. He hated George Gervin, hated playing with George Gervin because George Gervin wouldn't pass him the ball. So I say, now I'm doing the knowledge on the shit. Hold up.
Now you got the missing piece of the puzzle.
Nah, this is why. So I go and ask him, like, you was mad. You was always mad at George Gervin, huh? He was like, yeah, I didn't like it. I hated playing with him. He shot the ball too much. He just didn't care about his teammates. And I'm like, that's how you see me, don't you? He's like, y'all resemble a little bit. That's the last conversation I'll have with you.
All right. So as you can see, I actually scrolled through, and there's like I said, when it comes down to it, I'm looking at him as just as an example of how the nation of Edom does with the children of Israel as a whole. But he says, I'm just going through, he says he was scared of Anthony Mason. Ray Allen, in his book, said that George Karl was jealous that he was never a star on a team, and he held that resentment as a coach. All right. And so George Karl had issues with a lot of NBA players. Melo is speaking facts, holding a grudge against people who weren't even born when you were riding the bench. So, of course, a lot of us, we are our forefathers. We come back over time. And, of course, every time, Esau has been, had this hatred. Setting laws and unrighteous decrees and things of that nature to get the man out the house and things like that, right? Sam Cassell had 3 rings. Karl didn't like his game. Karl, who as a coach consistently panicked. Okay, that's one. And then here's the last one, because I remember hearing this, and I'm not going to read all of it. He says, it said Carl took Kobe out of the All-Star game and never let him play much in the second half. Kobe took that personal and beat his team every time they played. Okay, so I heard that story before. All right, and so this is just an example, right, of that of a perpetual hatred. Okay, this is the book of Proverbs. All right, and I want to I'm gonna read the whole thing, but the point I want to make is, you'll see, 6 verse 16 and 19 says, "These 6 things doeth the Lord hate, yea, 7 are abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift to run into mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren." And of course, the one thing is, it was like hands that shed innocent blood. Okay, because they came in, Carmelo came in just like many other athletes came in, not knowing, his intent, or even the heart devising wicked imaginations. So they come in innocently trying to play for this coach, working hard for the coach, but then they realize, many of the players realize later on that, man, there's an issue, and they couldn't really put their finger on it, and now it's coming out. Like the Lord said, "I have made Esau bare; I will uncover his secret parts." Like in today's time, many of us who came into this knowledge, we realized at some point the Lord put it in our spirit that, hey, something's off. Something. As much as we tried to work hard in this system. We seen many people, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians working hard in this system, men, and they didn't seem to ever be able to get over that hump. And then we find out later that, the whole time, the one that's been ruling over us has been putting obstacles in front, because they have this perpetual hatred from something in their past, right? And so, like it was told, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 different manner of people, this is, so let's get the rest of these scriptures. Let me see. We'll end with this one here. This is the book of, and it feel like a little bit all over the place, but hopefully, the point is made. It says, Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 2, it says, "As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers." So, of course, we're liking this unto, this is basketball, NBA, but just like that, you also had I forget his name, it might come to me, but the head owner of the Clippers organization, he had an hatred towards Magic Johnson, if anybody remember that, because his girl, was like taking pictures with them and talking with them, and she recorded him, and it came out, and so of course, you find that they all have like a good old boys society. You even go into the NFL, and you hear like how many of the owners, was working together, and emails being sent amongst themselves when it came down to Colin Kaepernick, which, people knows. I'm only mentioning well-known, highly, publicized situations, and where, he ended up suing, and some things came out about that. But how they, from the top levels even down, they would even work to blackball you. How much more, as far as them being rulers of the whole earth, when you look all these meetings that they have, from the G7, these national meetings, you don't have no blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the children of Israel, the true children of Israel, have any say as to how they're going to, govern our lives, right? But, and yet they have this hatred, towards us. It says, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. So just like the top level all the way down, and we're using the NBA as a just as an example, like from the owners to the managers to the coaches, even it could even be, the ball boy, or whoever, just from the top level on down. He says, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, so are all they that dwell therein. So again, they are in the ruling class, and this is the mindset, that they carry. And again, this is, I've seen this even in, my work area where I work, many places that I've worked, what you call favoritism and things of that nature. You being the one or seeing those of Israel that's very talented and can't never seem to get over that hump or being promoted and things of that nature. And then you have those who of Edom, or of another nation, like it tells us in Deuteronomy 28, those that come in within thee, will get up above thee very high, roughly paraphrasing. So they come in and then they get up very high and we remain low in the system. And then everybody's looking at us like, why is this the case? It's because Esau has much control as to how he's governing our lives and keeping us into a box. He would keep us there perpetually if he continuously ruled. This is why we need Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. It says, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. So of course, we always bring out the Proverbs 29 verse 2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn, because again, they're pretty much are only thinking more about themselves. And of course, he used coaching as his way to assert his dominance over Jake. All right. I do have one more scripture I want to get. See if I can. Proverbs 26. Oh, this is 12 and 26. Excuse me. Proverbs 26. Let me see if I can find it really quick. All right. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, verse 25. 24. It says, he that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. So of course he's a coach and he's got to deal with all these players, but in the back of his mind, and just think of it, like I said, even in society, but in the back of his mind, he has this hatred. And so he's using his authority, and he's secretly abusing the authority, and he can mindfully do certain things to keep you in a certain position. And of course, Jake, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American men and women, we feel that. But a lot of times because it's so hidden, you call it out, they can deceitfully, disguise it. You even have, in many cases, you have the HR and everybody that's in, again, all from the CEO all the way down to management are all on one accord when it comes to it. Verse 25, it says, when he speaketh fairly, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. So, of course, he, eventually Carmelo went and had a more personal conversation with him. And right now, because he spoke on it, he said he spoke on it. And, of course, George, they could ask him the same question and he can, it could be his word against the coaches, and now it's up in the air as to who's actually telling the truth. So anyway, it says, when he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart, whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be shewed before the whole congregation. So eventually, like it's, he made it known. And again, you could probably now you have Sam Cassell, Kobe Bryant. Well, Kobe's no longer living, but you have Sam Cassell. You have uh, man, who else he named? Gary Payton, Ray Allen, which they said had it in the book. And then you also have Sean Kemp, just to name a few. Camby. Even it seemed like it was something off when I used to watch the team and Allen Iverson was moved over to the team. Now Allen Iverson was I don't want to say it that way. Allen Iverson, he was a bucket. He got buckets. He shot the ball. So now you got him, and I remember I believe Camby was on the team, and you also had Carmelo, and so that was like, man, the guys that was on the team, man. Even Anthony, the one guy, it was point guard. They had a squad. What we call back then. They had a team, and yet they couldn't really seem to gel. And now you can see a lot of it kind of goes back to, you want to blame the players, and a lot of people put it heavy on the players, maybe talking about not working hard enough in certain things. But sometimes it goes back to the coaching. Your leaders. As we see this system, in today's time, they want to blame the people. They want to put everything back on the people. But when you really think about it, it's the leaders. This is why this place is divided. That's just a whole nother thought. But it says, who diggeth a pit. Okay, so this is being shown before the whole congregation. The deceit, that he had, and how he treated the players. But it says, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth the stone, it will return upon him. So again, eventually the things in which he was being put out, now, his name, his report, report is not really, doesn't sound too good amongst other players within the league, and then when it comes down to it, he's a coach, many people don't want to, they're talking amongst themselves, and now you're like, people don't want to go and play for that team, just to give an example. And I'm sure this is just one example of probably many things that you would hear, because there's actually another coach, a couple coaches that had some of that same, as Carl. So he's not the only one. But we'll leave it there. I hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, and exhorting of some sort to the elect body of true believers. Before I end, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Raha HaKadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, I say Shalom.